So when we got there, we see on the sign, Sammy Davis.
Oh, wow.
He's in the big room.
Yeah.
And they have, now I wonder if you're going to know this name. We weren't even billed, we were a second bill. The first bill in the small room was the amazing Kreskin.
No.
You don't know the amazing Kreskin?
No, is that a magician?
Yeah, AJ, do you know Kreskin? Well, there's about a million YouTubes of Kreskin. I believe he's still alive. Mm-hmm. He was a sleight of hand guy, but more than that, he was a mentalist.
Okay.
And he was the featured act. And the first night we were there, they had really nice dressing rooms. You walked up a flight of stairs behind where the stage was, and there were private dressing rooms, really, really plush. And we're coming on after Kreskin. He had no equipment. He just had a microphone, just a couple of props.
Sure.
So I walked down the flight of steps. So I'm watching him do his act from behind the curtain in the back, which is like whatever.
Yeah.
And when he finishes his act and the curtain, it was your classic curtain goes down. I go out, and he used to be all the time on, and you could look this, and Ian, you too, you could look this up on YouTube. He was a mainstay on Johnny Carson and Merv Griffin and all these, and he might have even had his own show at a particular point. And his main thing was, if you believed him, was a mentalist. And so he says to me, I said, "Hi, my name's Carrie." I go, "That was so cool, you know." And he goes, "Oh, it's nice meeting you. But where were you watching that from?" I go, "I was right behind the curtain." He goes, "You can't do that." He goes, I felt that someone was back there. And I offered this $10,000, legit $10,000 to anyone who says there's somebody helping me. So I don't allow anyone to be on the stage, front, side, nothing.
Yeah.
So he's trying to explain, and I'm like, yeah, right. And he's trying to explain to me so that in my mind, I know there's no one back there because no one's, so I'm like, oh, okay, okay. Anyway, we got to know him because we were there the whole week with him. And he was a really nice man. And he would come in the dressing room before either of us went on, and he would take a deck of cards, simple stuff. He would take a deck of cards and just say, pick a card. And you'd pick a card, and it's 4 of clubs. And he would just look at you and go, 4 of clubs. And he did it like he did like 6 in a row.
Wow.
And then he says, now let's take the same deck, right? And he would take the deck, and there's a table. Probably moved a few beer cans away, and he just, his hands were, he had those magician hands. He just, and all the cards are just perfectly laid out, face down. Mm-hmm. He goes to one of the guys in the band. He goes, "You think I could pick he goes, pick a card out. Don't look at it." So the guy picks out the 10th, 11th card. Just pull it out. Don't look at it. Because you think I know what it is? And the guy's like, "Yeah." He goes, "No, I don't." He goes, "Now look at it." And he's on the other side of the table. And I was right behind it. It was Charlie. Charlie, it's like the Queen of Diamonds. He goes, "Queen of Diamonds." But if no one was looking at it.
Yeah.
So at the casino.
Wow.
They allowed him to play blackjack, but he was not allowed to play poker.
Really? That's interesting. He was that good. He was that fast with his hands.
Yeah. And the thing that got me, and no one's going to believe this, but I saw it 3 times a night, every night for a week. And some of the guys in the band sitting in front watching him, not behind him, participated in his opening trick. And when I say this, no one's going to believe it. But anyway, his opening trick every night, he was not only a mentalist, but he had incredible sleight of hand. And he would come out on stage, ladies and gentlemen, the great Kreskin, amazing Kreskin, and the curtain would come out, and he'd come out on stage, and he'd say, can I get 2 people from the audience? And they were just regular people, and sometimes a guy from the band, and he'd have these 2 people come on the stage, and he would pull out a velvet bag that, if you've ever seen Crown Royal whiskey,
Sure.
right? That purple velvet bag. And he used to like to use men. He says, because he wants guys that are strong. He goes, you know, he would even say that. He goes, I want no disrespect to the ladies here, but I want 2 men. Because they could really make sure that I don't pull any stunts here. So he had the 2 people come up on stage, and he would pull the bag out and hand it to one of them, and show everybody there's nothing in this bag. Turn it inside out. And he'd have the other guy hold my wrists. So now his wrists are being held by one person. The other guy makes sure there's nothing in the bag, and he says to the guy who's expecting the bag, and I'm watching, I'm looking to, and they put the bag back on his hand, and he says, now, you guys got my wrists, right? And they're like, yeah, we got your wrists. He goes, let's just make sure there's nothing in this bag. He goes, just hold my wrists. And he would drop his hands down so the bag would fall, and there's nothing in the bag. And he's like, we've always tell the bigger guy, he goes, now, one of you hold my wrists and hold them tight, please. And they would hold him. The other one, please pick the bag up. Oh, do me a favor. Would you wring it out? Show us there's nothing in it again. Pull it inside out. Put the bag back on his hands. He said, now, both of you, you got my wrists. And they were both on wrists. Now, hold them tight. Hold them tight. And he would start shaking his hands up and down. He'll hold my wrist, hold my wrist, hold my wrist. And he'd let him, he'd say, all right, stop. And he would drop the bag, and he was holding a glass of water. Right. No one's going to believe it. So I would see this 3 times a night.
Wow.
And the guy was super cool. It was a great place to do the gig. People like Joe and Sammy Davis heard about us.
Really?
There's a really cool act there.
Okay.
And not only did Sammy Davis invite us to come see his show,
Wow.
which was like your classic Vegas style, you know, with a band, big band, and probably 45 minutes. The one thing I remember he was great, and I remember the finale, or maybe it was the encore, was Mr. Bojangles.
Okay.
And I don't know if you ever seen him do it, but he's like, you know, he owns that song. And that was awesome. And then he came to see Joe Savage.
No way.
Yeah. And we got to meet him and shake his hand.
That's awesome.
And he was a nice dude.
I never knew that.
Yeah.